right, so I'm gonna talk about Sea of Trees. God, I wish you were there for this movie. This movie is... Do you know what this movie's about?
You told me.
Okay.
It's about the suicide forest, right?
Yeah, it's about the suicide forest in Japan, and it's directed by Gus Van Sant.
And remind me who that is.
Good Will Hunting, Finding Forrester, Elephant, Jerry, Drugstore Cowboy, the remake of Psycho.
Okie dokie. I've seen none of those movies.
Some of them, Gus Van Sant's very hit or miss. Good Gus Van Sant can be very good. Bad Gus Van Sant, you'll just have Matt Damon and Casey Affleck walking in the desert for 90 minutes and saying nothing.
I heard about that one.
That's one of his.
That was Jerry?
That was Jerry.
Yes.
Yeah, that was Jerry, a.k.a. what Allison still calls the worst film ever made. So there's that level of bad Gus Van Sant, and then there's Sea of Trees. Now, I'll start. So Matthew McConaughey is a professor who lives in the United States, and when we first see him in the movie, he's parked his car at the airport, he's left his keys in there, he gets on a plane to Tokyo, and he goes in the suicide forest. Knowing what the movie's about and where he's going, it's like, yeah, he's going there to kill himself. And it's a well-made movie. Like, he's walking through the woods, and it is very haunting, because when he gets there, there's like a car that's already parked there that's got dust all over it, and he sees like a hanging corpse, and as he's going through the trail, there's a bunch of signs that are like trying to talk people in that situation out of doing this. Like, it really is pretty haunting to look at, like it, and even disturbing in a way. So McConaughey, he sits down to overdose on pills, and then he sees Ken Watanabe walking through the woods. And Ken Watanabe has his wrists cut, and they both kind of try to help each other. He tries to help Ken Watanabe out a little bit, because Ken Watanabe says he's been there for like 2 days and he's been lost. And then the two of them end up getting lost in this jungle, and it kind of becomes this survival story. And like McConaughey like falls off of a cliff at one point, and they have these conversations with each other about grief and guilt and depression and everything. And while it's doing this, it's flashing back to events that led up to this situation. And Matthew McConaughey is married to Naomi Watts in the movie, and they have a pretty bad marriage. Like, he doesn't make much money, and she's like a functioning alcoholic. But then it turns out she has like a brain tumor. So then with this whole medical situation going on, the two of them actually then become really close again. It's actually like this arc that happens in the movie, and so they start bonding together again as husband and wife, because he had previously like had an affair and a bunch of other stuff. And so for 80% of this movie is actually really good. For 80%. I
was gonna say, this sounds engrossing.
No, it 100% is for that 80%.
Oh no.
So I'm watching it like, I feel like I'm alone and really enjoying this movie. Like, there is haunting stuff in the film. Like, when he and Ken Watanabe, they find a tent, and like there's a corpse inside of it, but it's raining, so they have to take the clothes off of this corpse so they can use it on themselves.
It's Natalie Dormer.
What?
It says Natalie Dorner.
Oh, right, yeah. If only that movie had the direction of this film, like, it would have actually been kind of scary. So, okay, somewhere in this 80%, it turns into like some hybrid of Nicholas Sparks and bad M. Night Shyamalan, because, okay,
so now I'm trying to figure out what the twist might be.
Well,
Ken Watanabe's not actually there. He's been dead for 40 years.
You're not far off, but like, so when it flashes back to Matthew McConaughey, and Naomi Watts in the hospital, it's like this really good scene between the two, and this doctor comes in and says they've taken the mass out of her brain and that it's non-malignant, so she's fine. And so it's happy and everything, and they're going to take her over to recovery. So she's in an ambulance, and Matthew McConaughey is following behind her, and they're both on the phone with each other, and they're talking about little things that they'd kind of forgotten about each other, like he'd kind of forgotten like what her favorite season is, what her favorite color is, and stuff like that. So they're having this laugh and this jokey session, and then this is where the movie just shoots itself in the head. A semi-truck comes out of nowhere and crashes right into the ambulance. So Naomi Watts is dead.
Yes.
Like, right after, like, oh, I'm cancer-free, time to go to recovery, boom, semi-truck into the ambulance.
Okay, well, I figured that was gonna happen, because why would he kill himself?
Oh, I just figured she was probably gonna still end up dying. Like,
She did.
not like that.
Semi-truck.
That's akin to she walks out of the hospital and an anvil falls on her head. Or like, oh, we were just moving this grand piano up on the side of the building. Oh no, we hit the cancer lady. Like, so, it's so out of nowhere and so ridiculous. Like, so a semi-truck just fucking kills her. And then Matthew McConaughey ends up making it out of the forest. Ken Watanabe's laying there, and he's like, I'm too tired to move, and all that. And earlier in the movie, they see a flower growing, and Ken Watanabe says, when a flower grows here, then someone's spirit who is here has passed on, or something like that. So Matthew McConaughey says to him, like, you stay here, I'm gonna go, I promise I will come back for you. So he ends up getting out of the woods. And so he's in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And the doctor's like, are you sure you're okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, what are you doing after this? He's like, well, I'm going back to the woods. The doctor's like, he's like, no. He's like, my friend is still there. I need to go back and get him. So he goes back into the woods to find Ken Watanabe, and the doctor's like, we found nobody there. We looked at the cameras and no one else walked in there. Like, okay, let's just get to it. McConaughey goes back in there, and he uses like yarn to tie to a tree so he won't get lost, but he runs out of yarn, and then he starts crumpling up paper and leaving it behind, which I feel might blow away.
I don't know. I feel like GPS probably would have served him better, but what do I know?
Yeah, that shit works different in the suicide forest. And they also couldn't look up any information that they gave him on Ken Watanabe, not by his name, because they were like, but there's a lot of people who are named this. And then he gives him the name of Ken Watanabe's like wife and son. So he goes back into the woods, and he's putting the paper trail behind him. Pretty quickly he finds the spot where he left him, and he sees, because McConaughey gave Ken Watanabe his jacket, and he sees the jacket and lifts it up, and there was a flower there, and I'm in the theater like, did he just fucking turn into a flower?
He was always a flower.
Not quite. It keeps going.
What?
Oh, it fucking keeps going. So
Flower turns around and it's got Ken Watanabe's face in it.
that would be more realistic. So McConaughey takes the flower home with him back to the States, and he's a professor. So he's there with his class, and there's this kid who's talking to him, and McConaughey has the piece of paper in front of him with the Japanese on it, and the kid sees it and knows Japanese, so he tells him what it means, and McConaughey's like, how do you know Japanese? And the kid, who's not Japanese, by the way, the kid says like, oh, my grandpa was like stationed in Okinawa in the war, which I guess means he knows Japanese. I know Korean, because my grandpa was in the Korean War. So the names on there weren't names, it was his wife's favorite season and his wife's favorite color, but in Japanese. So Ken Watanabe was the spirit of Matthew McConaughey's dead wife, who is now a flower who Matthew McConaughey plants in his backyard. I'm like, movie, you had me. You had me, and then you turned into hit by semi-truck, and then you become the Sixth Sense meets fucking Dragonfly.
Meets fucking What Dreams May Come.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, like a little bit of What Dreams May Come thrown in there. Like, it really did lose me at the semi-truck, because I was like, I feel like she could have just died. Like, did you really need to throw in, like, the J.J. Abrams getting hit by a car off screen?
Yes, yes, they did.
It turns into this manipulative crap, like trying to manipulate tears out of the audience by killing the wife with a semi-truck, and then
Did you cry?
I did when the movie was good. Like honestly, like in the first 80% of this, where it really honestly had me. Like it did really well with McConaughey and Naomi Watts have really good chemistry. Mm-hmm. His dialogue with Ken Watanabe's really good when they're talking about death and they're talking about depression and grief and guilt and all these things that he's felt since his wife's passed away. Mm-hmm. Somewhere along the way in the last 20 minutes of this movie, well, let's throw a bone to the people who really like Nicholas Sparks movies and thought Dragonfly was an underrated gem. So
probably don't see Sea of Trees.
No, oh God, I've rarely seen a movie shit the bed that hard. Wow.
It's pretty amazing, though.
It's
so, like,
yeah.
Plus, like, I'm particularly fond, in a twisted way, of when we go and see a movie that's got like 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the start of it is amazing because it's kind of like makes it a suspense movie, no matter what the genre is. Cause it's like, when is things gonna turn bad?
Mm-hmm. For a while in this movie, I was like, I don't know what I'm missing that made people boo this movie at film festivals. Like, I don't know why 9% of why 91% of critics hate this movie. And then I understood it fully.
It was just the bachelor party from Best Man.
Yeah. Well, although I'm sure the first half of what was the best? Oh wait, that was
the Wedding
Ringer. Yeah. I'm sure the first half of Wedding Ringer, though, you weren't like, this is one of the best films I've seen of the year. Whereas
I was laughing. I genuinely enjoyed the first half of that movie, and then the bachelor party happened.
God, this one I was kind of like, wow, this is, I think, one of the better Gus Van Sant movies that I've seen. Mm-hmm. For 70 minutes of the movie.
Just stop it at the 70-minute mark, Ben.
Like, I wish this movie wasn't just playing at 1:40 in the morning, because it would have been great if you and I were there seeing this, because we've seen some batshit romance movies before.
That's true. Like, it could have turned out that his comatose wife, was like sending telekinetic messages to a wind chime on an island in a gazebo he made out of driftwood.
Yeah, exactly. But this one's more unique because at least something like Winter's Tale was from beginning to end batshit. Like it wasn't like oh, this is perfectly normal.
He found the goddamn horse within 5 minutes of that movie. Exactly.
Yeah, that sort of makes me wish Semi-Truck happened in the first 5 minutes of this movie, because then I would have been like, it's gonna take a lot to recover from. Just not even 5 minutes after getting the news, you're cancer-free. Boom. Fuck. So, the first 80% of this movie is solid enough for me to be like, try giving it a watch on Netflix, but just fucking wait. Just fucking wait for this movie to just dive right off of a fucking cliff.
Because, like, I'm prepared to forgive it for bullshit like that. I enjoyed City of Angels, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. And it had a similar... Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah.
She's just riding on her bike, not a care in the world.
Mm-hmm. Man, right. I would rather watch that than Sea of Trees. Oh, God. Well, trailers.
Reviews wise, we got Bad Santa 2.
I'm excited.
Which I think I must have realized was a thing, but I forgot in the moment, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
I loved Bad Santa. And I know I get burned all the time on bad comedy sequels, but I still fall for it every time. So I'm like, yeah, I think it looks good.
I think they were relying too much on that kid.
Thurman Merman? Mm-hmm. I'm glad to see Thurman Merman back. I guess they got him back, but not Lauren Graham.
It looks like Shelley from, which was it?
Friday the 13th, Part 3?
Yes.
Oh, blonde Shelley. Yeah, I can see that.
Snowden.
I didn't realize his story was so action-packed.
There's a whole thing of the Rubik's Cube, you guys. It was gripping.
Mm-hmm.
Blair Witch.
I'm excited for Blair Witch.
That looks like genuinely terrifying.
Yeah, I love the first one. I love the first Blair Witch project. I'm glad they're doing another one.
Look, dude, I got a thing about, like, Lost in the Woods in the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like, David with his spiders and Brian with his snakes.
Oh, then, yeah, you would have liked the first part of Sea of Trees.
But this is more so because it's, like, shaky cam and they're, like, crawling through the mud, like, beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, I'm glad they're doing another one, because the second one is a horrific piece of garbage. Mm-hmm. But the second one failed so bad they didn't do any more after that. And I was like, I still wish they did another one.
Mm-hmm. And now they are.
To wash the taste of the second one out of my fucking mouth.
I always get the second one confused with Jeepers Creepers.
Jeepers Creepers is Texas Chainsaw Massacre compared to Blair Witch 2.
But I remember enjoying the first one.
What, Jeepers Creepers? Oh, Blair Witch, sorry.
No, I enjoyed Jeepers Creepers because I watched it with a friend of mine who finds everything terrifying.
Yeah. And
so she was like hiding under the covers from the Batman.
Well, Jeepers Creepers is far superior to Jeepers Creepers 2.
Ouija, Origin of Evil.
I'm looking forward to that.
That looks so dumb.
I think it looks fun as hell. I like smug, possessed little girl.
Well, it was really, it had me with like the period appropriateness and like the terrifying youngest Brady sort of possessed girl. Mm-hmm. But then she started doing that CGI nonsense with their mouth, and it's like, oh, okay, no, never mind.
Just a little bit in the trailer.
It happened a couple times, and there was also like, oh no, my mouth is going away.
Oh, yeah, I mean, fake out dream sequence is one of my, is one cliche in horror movies I hate the most now. Uh-huh. I'll say this, at least in the trailer, it shows that it's a fake out dream sequence in the trailer, and it looks like the little girl caused it. Mm-hmm. But I saw the first Ouija, which was awful. This one actually, for me anyway, having seen the first one, this one actually don't think looks that bad. It at least,
I wouldn't be going to it anyway. That's a you and Brian movie.
That'll be me and Brian.
And I have no problem about not being remotely interested in it. The Accountant. Ooh, that looks really good.
Yeah, The Accountant. Good Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I am excited for that movie. I want to see Ben Affleck shoot some fucking people.
That was coming out like a week after I'm due, so probably I don't get to go see that one, but you'll have to tell me how it is.
I'll smuggle in a bootleg.
Yes, please. I will watch that version of The Accountant, because that movie looks awesome.
It does.
It's like, yeah, it's like Dexter meets an accountant.
Yeah, it's Jason Bourne, but instantly more personality than Jason Bourne.
Yes. Rules don't apply.
I'm looking forward to that. It's been
looks cute.
Yeah, it's been like 15 years since Warren Beatty's done anything. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking forward to it in the sense that, hey, Warren Beatty's back.
Well, plus this looks kind of like what that Hail Caesar movie was supposed to be.
That's one of the same actors in it, too.
Who's that?
Alden, how do I pronounce his last name? Einrich? Something like that. He's the guy who's playing Han Solo, too, in the Han Solo prequel movie.
Okay.
And he was one of the best parts of Hail Caesar. So, yeah, that looks quirky and fun.
Yeah, I like a period piece, too.
Mm-hmm. Especially a period piece about Hollywood.
Yeah. And then Keeping Up with the Joneses.
Why go see it? The trailer shows you the entire fucking movie.
It basically does. I like seeing John Hamm in movies.
Me too.
But other than that, yeah, I have no interest in seeing that movie.
I'm instantly leery of any movie where the title begins with "Keeping Up With," "Did You Hear About," or "Meet the," unless it's "Meet the Feebles." So.
What about Bob?
Oh, the term "what about"? Mm-hmm. I don't know about that. I guess that could be all right. What about the Joneses? I guess I'll give it a chance then. What about Bob's fine.
How about some Joneses, perhaps?
Okay, that's pretty good.
Would you consider the Joneses?
I'm going to put that on my mailbox.
For your consideration. Joneses.
Because that movie will be getting no Oscar nominations.
We've considered it. No.
It's like, I gotta see it, because, I gotta support John Hamm being in movies. But that looks not good. I mean, I'd be more interested in it if I didn't already know 100% everything that's going to happen in that movie because of the trailer.
Mm-hmm. It's basically the nosy neighbor lady from That Darn Cat.
Mm-hmm.
In modern era, except it turns out that it's spies. It's like if Mr. and Mrs. Smith had like a peanut gallery type audience.
If Mr. and Mrs. Smith moved into the same town from The Burbs.
Yeah, I was getting a Burbs vibe.
Mm-hmm. Except The Burbs is fucking awesome. And that movie looks like something I'll see.
Whatever.
Was that it?
That's it.
No, there was no more.
What are we going to next? No, there was like 50 trailers this time. But we knocked them all out of the park.
I don't know what comes out next week. There's this movie playing over at Parkway called Equity that I think I'll probably shoot Dave a text. Someone go, you want to go see Equity? Like,
what's it about?
Some Wall Street thing. It looks kind of boring. It's with Anna Gunn from Breaking Bad.
Uh-huh.
It looks like it's something that should have come out like in the mid to late 90s, like an erotic thriller if they took out all the erotic parts and just left it about the business end of the whole
thing. It's basically like, what was that movie with James Spader? Where it was like him and Rob Lowe.
Oh, Bad Influence?
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
So like that, but without the sexiness.
No, because that was more of like a stalker thriller. Mm-hmm. This looks more like something like, I don't know, like something like Shannon Tweed would have been in on Cinemax, where she's high-powered businesswoman and bangs Larry Poindexter and Andrew Stevens, only if they took out the banging.
Never take out the banging.
That's why I'm watching these movies. See ya.